evening. I call the February 15th, 2023 Apple Valley Planning Commission meeting to order. The first item of business is the approval of the agenda. Any changes from staff?
We do not have any changes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any from commissioners? Do I get a movement?
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Diekman and seconded by Commissioner Scanlon. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The next item of business is the approval of the consent agenda. The consent agenda items are considered routine and will be enacted with a single motion, without discussion, unless a commissioner or a citizen requests to have any item separately considered. It will then be moved to the land use action items for consideration. 3A, approve minutes of January 4th, 2023 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Diekman and seconded by Commissioner Scanlon. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is number 4, public hearings, the drive-through window and Class 3 restaurant for Cider Ridge Marketplace. I will open the public hearing. We will now open the public hearing for agenda item number 4A. The affidavit of publication for the notice of public hearings is available for inspection in the planning department. Everyone wishing to speak at this public hearing should be sure to fill out the attendance roster. Include your name and your address so that accurate records can be maintained. We will begin the procedure with a brief presentation by city staff, followed by a presentation by the petitioner of the hearing. Upon the conclusion of the presentation, city staff will be asked to comment on their proposal's conformance with pertinent regulations and policies. After that, comments will be taken from the general public. Kathy.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commission members. The petitioner of this request is Hempel Real Estate, and the property owner is Honeycrisp Holdings, LLC. The Cider Ridge Marketplace goes back actually to 2019 is when the city first started going through plans and reviewing applications. July of 2020, the comprehensive plan was amended. August of 2020, just after that then, the city reviewed a PD ordinance, had some specifics that were lined up to get ready to enact that. A conditional use permit was granted for a bank drive-through teller on the north side of the building, and then site plan review building permit authorization. The developer owner ended up contacting the city saying, in 2020, saying their preference was to revisit the approvals and instead to move forward with a conditional use permit for drive-through for a Class 3 restaurant. The Planning Commission looked at very carefully, and so very familiar with that. While construction got underway, the CUP lapsed a year later. So June of last summer, because of the fact that the CUP could not be put into effect. So that's why we're here tonight. It's a request for a conditional use permit for drive-through window service in connection with the Class 3 restaurant, consistent with previously approved conditional use permit. But while we're here, petitioner is asking for consideration of a couple of amendments. So first of all, the location map. Cider Ridge Market is located on the northeast corner of Cedar Avenue and 145th Street, 7495 145th Street West. The comprehensive plan guides the site for commercial, so that's in place, and the zoning of the site is PD 1087. The site plan that's proposed is the same as what has been approved, although the petitioner did submit some sketches with some ideas about maybe revising the flow internally in the site to encourage vehicles to stack further south of the north property line. Previously, the drive-through would have gone north all the way and then gone south. So while it shortens up the queuing space, it gets the vehicles away from adjacent residential properties. This was discussed with the city engineer. He generally supports it, but had a few questions, wants to spend a little more time with the developer and kind of work out a few details if this were to move forward. So the floor plan shows the store would be on the south end of the building again, of the multi-tenant building. Although the pink doesn't show up at all, the floor area is about 1,800 square feet and would not be co-branded with anything else. So it would simply be a coffee shop. So the Second Amendment, along with or alongside the proposed maybe changes to the site plan, the petitioner is requesting that the city consider amending the CUP to allow for a 6 a.m. start time rather than 7. The PD zoning ordinance states that if the drive-through is within 1,000 feet of residential property, the city can place that 7 to 10 limit. So that's what was approved previously. But the petitioner is a little bit concerned that competing stores don't have the same restriction or consideration. So they're starting quite a bit earlier, in most cases 5, 6, 5:30, and so on. And so they're kind of feeling like they're at a competitive disadvantage by having the later start. So like previously, staff has gone through and looked at the draft CUP, and even though we know the competitive disadvantage, our concern is that when you look at the site plan, the residential zoning is about 60 feet from the north parking lot, a little over 100 feet. I wrote that down. The building is about 130 feet from residential, so well within that 1,000-foot mark. What the petitioner has said is that maybe there are ways to help offset impacts. I think we looked at that very closely when the building first came in, but we'll let him discuss that. And then the same details or conditions that we had previously. Shall not negatively impact surrounding residential. Drive-through lanes shall not impede or conflict with vehicle, bicycle, or pedestrian traffic. If there's a loss of parking due to the drive-through, then it needs to be made up on the rest of the site. So with that, Madam Chair, staff is recommending holding the public hearing this evening with the idea that the developer has a little more work to do to work through some issues, and we would bring that back at an upcoming meeting, depending on the comments received this evening.
Okay.
And I could stand for questions if there are any.
Thank you, Kathy. Commissioners, anybody have questions for Kathy?
Yes.
Commissioner Diekman?
Madam Chair, Kathy, the Caribou that is on Cedar Avenue, I believe it's 147th, had proposed a drive-through to their operations some time ago.
Yes.
What was the restrictions that we placed on their hours of operations given the residential to the north of that lot?
That's a very good question, and I would have to research that and get back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Yes, appreciate that, Madam Chair. And Kathy, it was a similar question, I think, about the neighboring coffee shops that were shown, if any of those are located less than 1,000 feet from residential.
That's a good question. And we could show it on a map, to help highlight that. The Caribou on Emperor Avenue is very close to, a couple of, multi-family, kind of higher density, senior housing developments. But otherwise, no, none are within, 100 feet or less of kind of medium density or low density residential.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Something just came to my thought was about the sidewalk. On the other side where Starbucks is, there is no walking sidewalk on Cedar Avenue, is there? But across, there is a walking sidewalk.
There's no sidewalk.
I don't think there is there.
Yeah.
We could,
Brandon, is there a sidewalk there on this, by Starbucks?
And Cedar.
there should be.
There is.
Madam
We could
Chair,
look,
actually,
let us
Cedar
look
has
it up.
trail both sides.
They do.
The full length of Cedar has trails or decorative sidewalk both sides because of the MVTA stations, all the way up to 138th as pedestrian access.
The difference, though, is where this one is going in, they have to drive with the sidewalk walking right here, whereas Starbucks, it kind of goes back way, right? I'm just thinking about pedestrians walking with cars going into that area.
Sure, sure.
Just all of a sudden thought of it, so.
Yeah, the layout is identical to what was approved before, and so there is an acknowledgement, yes, there will be cross traffic, so there will have to be care taken,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay, no other questions, Kathy? Does the
Petitioner?
petitioner like to speak? You look familiar.
Yeah. Yes, hi, Ben Kurznak with Hempel Companies. Thank you, Chair and the Commission, and of course Kathy too. I think this is our 4th or 5th project in Apple Valley, and pretty excited about this project finally moving forward. It took a pandemic and a few other things to slow us down, but yeah, in terms of coffee, people drink coffee in the morning, and so just opening at 7 when a lot of people are on their way to work, it's kind of compared to all their competitors that open at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., it would be a big disadvantage there. In terms of, when you talk about traffic here, you have Cedar Avenue, it's very, very close already. And, I think if a coffee shop's going to probably be less than 1% of the traffic on that primary road. And so I don't think we're adding much to the traffic, and a car going 5 miles an hour through the parking lot is not going to be very loud. Additionally, if you look at the site plan, I can maybe point with this. These are some very big pine trees. So these are all, pretty mature pine trees as well. And then we also have a 6-foot privacy fence. That's going to be a solid fence. I don't see car lights penetrating those different obstructions. And in terms of noise and that kind of thing, the drive-through speaker is way on the other side of the building over here, and then the pickup window is on the far end. Also screened by a building, so I think the sound isn't going to carry from here. And I know I argued with Kathy about, I think people getting in and out of their cars and shutting their doors at 6 a.m. is going to be probably more disruptive than rolling down a window. So, yeah, I would take further questions. So.
Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Scanlon?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I guess what we need to look at when we're making a decision on this is how this not just affects this location and what you're trying to do, but globally with any other restaurant in the same circumstance. And, we've gone through this with you like 3 or 4 different renditions and worked through this. And this last one, we spent a lot of time on it to come up with the layout and the understandings that we had from it. And, that 7 o'clock start time was pretty, I think, well discussed during the last time we went around and approved this. And with the closeness of the residential, that is a concern, and what that means going forward with other restaurants that are going to want the same thing. So it'll be interesting with the questions that came up with fellow commissioners, what the feedback on that is. So for next time.
Thank you, Paul. Anybody else? Okay,
Okay, thanks.
thank you. Continue. If you are here in person, please come to the podium to speak and address all comments and questions to the chair. If you are okay, is there anybody in the audience that would like to, would you like to speak or no? Okay. You also look familiar.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I'm still Pastor Tim from Hope Church. Good to see you again. Just to express on behalf of our membership that there's no opposition to altering the flow of the drive-through traffic or the earlier time opening. I think you know this, but the probability of cars coming in the dark and shining into windows is not something I understand. The windows of those townhouses face west to Cider Avenue, and the building that's immediately on the other side there. Besides the fence that had been mentioned, there's also a berm there, but that building is a garage, so the townhouses are not. Do I have that right about? Yeah, I don't see that as an issue. Sorry, I'm trying to step into your technical area there, but.
And those are the only ones we're concerned with, right? Because the east of it is far enough away and everything, the house is east of it.
And there's more trees there on the northeast side of our property, so thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Pastor. I just saw it today and it's coming up nicely and quickly, so. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, if there are no further comments, I will close the public hearing. It is policy of the Planning Commission not to act on an item the same night of the public hearing. The Planning Commission will weigh all comments and information received tonight on its deliberations at future meetings. This item will continue to appear on future Planning Commission agendas until a recommendation on the petition can be forwarded to City Council. Thank you. This brings us to land use action items. It looks like there are none tonight. So that brings us to other business. And I would like to welcome Tim Bennett. Am I saying it right?
Nope.
No?
Benetti.
Benetti. This is his first time. He is our new Community Development Director. So welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Glad to be here, my first meeting. Sorry we had to miss a few, but this was a very quick and easy meeting, I think, tonight. And but for our next meeting on March 1st, we do plan to have another public hearing item on that night. And your following meeting will be also, I believe, your March 1st will be your annual meeting where you will be electing your officers. I understand that Chair Kurtz will be absent, as will I. We're going two separate ways, but I don't know if you wanted to postpone the annual meeting to a future date when we're all here for the election of officers and also presentation of the annual report.
Thank you, Tim. I think my recommendation would be that we wait with the election of officers until we're both here. And the presentation, I think, would be the best for that next time.
Should we set that for the 15th of March then?
That would work.
Okay, we'll make that change. And we also plan to have, I believe, 2 potential items on March 15th as well for you to consider. So, but more information will be forthcoming once we know for sure the agenda is set. With that, be happy to meet all of you after the end of the meeting. Provide you with a business card. You're more than welcome to call me or stop in my office if you have any questions. Love to chat with you on a one-to-one basis. or email me or call me if you have any other questions in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, and like I said, welcome, and hopefully we'll work all together for many, many years to come.
I hope so.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Scanlon and seconded by Commissioner Diekman. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We're adjourned.